To bring it all together, today I can sit back and I can look at my past and I can feel proud of the person I am today. And part of that has to do with that I have lived more and experienced more in the last 10 years of my life than I did for the first 37 years. I mean, I can sit here today and tell you all the things I've done. And, for me, the number one thing was writing. Writing just helped me. And, second was just building good, strong relationships and building trust with people. And third is just living life and enjoying what I have and enjoying the good parts.
Cindy McConnell is a devoted mother, wife, gardener, writer, survivor, and thriver. She reached out to the Powerful Voices Project to share her story as part of her lifelong mission to raise awareness of childhood sexual abuse and domestic violence.
Basically, my story started when I was about 11 years old. I had moved with my mom and my brother from Arizona to Southern California, and we were, a whole new experience. We'd kind of moved away from everything we'd known up till that point in my life, and family and everything. And in the course of a few months, my mom met a man who she very quickly became involved with, and he almost immediately moved in with us.
At a very young age, Cindy was first exposed to a deeply violent and disrespectful relationship among adults.
This was back in a time when domestic violence wasn't as prominent as it is today, as far as people knowing about it. So it was when she could show up at the emergency room with broken ribs and black eyes, and they'd fix her up and send her home. In the meantime, I think he kind of set his eyes on me because I was very young, obviously. I was very alone and very easy prey for him. And one night fell asleep watching TV and was awakened by him having him touching me. And so I basically just froze, didn't know what to do, and waited for it to be over. And that kind of opened the whole door for him to have full access to me whenever he wanted at that point. And so he would do the visits to my room at night, and over time that just went further and further. And so that's how it all began. I mean, it went on that way for many years. We lived as if basically he and I were together. So he basically moved into my room. My mom had her own room. And she at that point started really pulling away from the situation and kind of starting her own life. And I think, at least in my perspective now, looking back at it, that she basically traded me for her freedom from him.
Cindy was forced to endure this dynamic throughout her entire teenage life, and it continued well into her adult years.
I was sunk. There was no way I was going to get out of the situation. There was nowhere for me to go, no one to turn to, and that I just resolved myself that was my life, whether I wanted it or not. I think that's the hardest part of my entire experience, is that my voice got shut down at a very early age. I mean, at 12 years old, I was basically belonged to this man and had no choice in the matter. I had nobody to turn to. I didn't even know I could, let alone, be brave enough to do it. And so even as an adult, even when I'm, in my early 20s and I have this opportunity, and I'm coming out to tell people that, we're together and that, it still at that point never occurred to me that I could trust anybody outside of him. People need to know you don't have to accept that. You don't have to own the situation. It's not yours to own. And unfortunately, I did. I totally reached a place where I just owned it and said, this is my life, this is what I'm meant to do, and this is what it's meant to be. And so with that, my son was born, Zach. And that was probably one of the hardest years of my life, and my whole relationship with him, as hard as all of that was because he was so controlling over the baby. Things got really, really tough between us, really tough financially, emotionally, everything. And then out of the blue kind of became this shift. And so slowly but surely I kind of gained my independence, and I kind of started pulling away from the situation, and we got back on track financially. I started establishing accounts and things in my own name. So I was for the first time in my life, I was 30 years old, or a little over that. I was establishing my own identity for the very first time. Every day that went by, I got stronger and more convinced and more determined, I think, to keep moving forward and to build this new life. And so I walked in the house, and he knew something was wrong, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I want out. And that was like the turning point of my life, absolute turning point. Now, today, probably one of the most freeing things of my whole new life is that I don't have to lie about anything. I don't have to make things up. I don't have to cover things up. When I started my new life and my new journey away from all of that, part of it was, how do I deal with it? I mean, obviously it was a part of my life. It was something I had experienced, and I needed to figure out how to move past it.
As part of Cindy's healing journey, she decided to write her story down in the form of a book.
I went through a whole self-publishing thing and sent it off to the editor, and anxiously waited, it was like 6 weeks to get some feedback on it, because it was very scary. For the first time ever, I put the story out to a stranger, and the feedback I got was really great, and just a couple of minor changes, just a couple little edits, and I was kind of like, wow. So from there I published it, and I really haven't done anything with it. It was enough just to do it. To me, it was a way for me to take the story out of my head, put it someplace else, and create some distance from it. And so literally it sits up on a shelf. And that was just probably the most healing part of everything for me, was just to get it on paper, away from me. And of course the big step was sharing the story. And so before I published it, I had 2 very close friends read it. The support that I got from them, and the support I've gotten from anybody that's read it since, has just been amazing and very empowering. When I went through the process and I got to the point of choosing a cover for the book, there's a place in the book where I talk about being like a bird trying to fly and getting its wings clipped. And so they found this image, and the bird is like entwined, and it's all messy, but its little head is sticking up above all that mess. And I thought, that is like the perfect symbol for me, because I went through all this mess. It was crazy, and it's hard to explain, and it's hard to understand, and it's just very chaotic. But somehow or another, I kept my little head up above it. And, that's how I got to be where I am today. Somehow, some way.
Today, Cindy is surrounded by a supportive and compassionate community. Her adult son, longtime partner, and her little dog Sadie have all been sources of unyielding love and kindness throughout her journey.
They've been very open with being able to tell the story and helping me to be the survivor that I am today, because through them and their understanding, I've gained the confidence that I didn't have, and I'm able to kind of embrace who I am and realize that it wasn't my fault, which I think is what most victims feel like, and somehow or another they were to blame, or they were at fault for why things happened to them. And I spent a lot of years thinking that and wondering, what I had done in my life so bad to deserve this. And now I realize that it wasn't about me at all. It just, I happened to be there, be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Part of the feeling free and having the freedom is just being outside, because for so many years I was kind of stuck in the house. And so that's really, really important to me. And I'm so lucky to have a partner who loves the outdoors as much as I do. So we find every excuse we can to be out there. And through it, we do activities that involve friends and family, or we just go on hikes, the 2 of us. And one of the best things we do is we pack peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And when we get to the top of whatever mountain we're hiking, we get to sit down and eat our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they're like the best ever at that point.
In addition to Cindy's professional life, she has become an activist and advocate for other survivors, specifically working with young people to prevent or intervene in situations of child abuse.
You know, one of my goals in life would be to somehow get into middle schools to tell young girls that and boys, if you're experiencing any of these things, it's not okay, and there is help and there are ways around it. Because I think had I had that when I was 12, I wouldn't have had to go through everything I did. So I live today a very active, very full life, and I don't sit much. I feel like I missed so much before that I just have to get it all while I can now, and so it's amazing and it's wonderful.
Cindy is a phenomenally kind and strong person who we are honored to have had the opportunity to speak with and to be part of her journey.